Hi everyone, welcome to the stream. Welcome. I'm just chilling, relaxing, and doing my notifications, so you have to give me a minute. See if we can turn this camera down a little bit. Bye, Nessie. We cut off Nessie's hat a little bit, but it'll be okay. I don't know who gifted a sub, but thank you. I forget who it was. I forget, but yeah, you were gifted a sub. Shane, welcome. Welcome to the stream, Shane. How are you? You should get some ears. Maybe I'll do black ones for artist. There you go. There you go. I feel like I'm behind schedule today, but at the same time, I'm like, it's Sunday. I don't have to be in a rush. I can just like slowly roll out my notifications. I'm sure you guys won't mind. I'm good. I hope you are. I am good. I'm a little tired today. I think it's the weather though. It's been raining all day and the temperature's, you know, drastically changing as normal. 20 degrees and temp always gives me like a headache, so dealing with that a little bit, but other than that, I'm okay. Make sure I'm posting to the right ones here. Like gonna repeat post something. I don't want to hear myself. I'm good. Let's see. Oh, never mind. I'm reading the same thing. We're good. Okay, I did there. Okay, I gotta do a notification there and there, and then I'm done. I guess I should take a selfie. There we go. And post that. And I'll add a link because it helps people. Makes it easier. And there. All the peeps. And then I have to Who's roaring at me? Turtle's roaring. What is that? Oh yeah, the selfie thing? Yeah, I had to. Do my notifications, so. Let's see. And I'll do this one. Link. It takes time to do all this stuff. I think those that are streamers truly get how long it takes to do all your notifications. It also depends on how many social medias you are on too, so. Like, I just loaded to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Discord does it automatically. So wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Discord does it automatically. And sometimes I do it to Twitch before I go live. So that's like 7 places I post each time. So it's pretty crazy. But welcome everyone, welcome to the stream. I got the ducks, they're swimming. I'm sure you can hear them in the background. I'm sure we have quite a few new ones to explore and check out as well. So, but yeah. And I did get myself some hot tea and it is very hot, so cheers. Actually, it's about perfect right now. If I don't forget about it and let it get cold. Because I'm good at doing that too. But hi, Michigan! Welcome, welcome, welcome to the stream. Ready to check out these crazy ducks? I think we have some new ones. I'm not sure what all we even have here, so we're gonna go check them out. Like, pretty sure we're locked on that one. How do I zoom into them again? Why isn't it letting me zoom into my ducks? There it goes. He's a Tron duck. That or a mouse. He's a mouse. He's a mouse. He's the mouse. The light up mouse. That's so cool. He's a light up mouse. I like it. Oh, he's getting sucked up into the tube. Okay, we've seen the sparkler one, but this guy, oh, they just got away from me, is new. This one. That one's new. That one's pretty. I like the metallic stars. Welcome, Reed! You made it! How are you doing, lovely? I hope you're feeling a little better. Lady was late, fire. No. Not going to do that. No, rude, not terribly late. Raleigh, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Oh my god, that one's on fire. How did the plaid duck get on fire? Did the lava duck light him up? I'm so confused. What kind of duck is that? Wiggle! Happy Sunday! Hello, dear. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love the outline, the highlight text. Splend! Thank you for the sub for 17 months. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Are you guys all hanging out and chilling tonight? Here's a duck. I don't know why my duck's on fire. Hey, Radio Wiggles. Thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No comment. You're not gonna comment about the duck? Are you guys hanging out? I'm sure you are. I haven't looked. Jeffafa's baby ducks are way over here in the corner. I can get to them. Let's see. First we'll target on Jeff, and then I'll go right... I can't target the baby ducks, but those little baby ducks way back there are Jeff's. Oh, who's this one? This is the new one. Is that a fried egg on top of the duck? Okay, that's peculiar. No work tomorrow. Feels like a Saturday, so drinking. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. No work for me either. Thank goodness. I don't like the fried egg duck. Look at this guy. He's like a robot. A little metal robot. Like, who just jumped into that pipe? It's like pulling people in is what it is. There's Wiggles. This teapot. Can we get Bat Duck back in there? Maybe. It does it on its own, so we'll see. And then, what is that? Is that a sprinkled donut? It's a sprinkled donut over there. Let's see. Come on, I don't want to like get close. I'm not clicking on the Wiggles duck. I'm clicking on that one. It won't let me let go of Wiggles. There. We'll go to the watermelon. And then maybe we can click on the donut one. Nope. Is that duck defective? There, finally let me click on it. It's a sprinkled donut. Michigan, I just make it look good. Let's see the baby ducklings. Those came out of Jeff's, Jeff Duck. Hide, runs to your safe place. Oh, you better hide. She might get you for that. Teacup's hot. Catch the cute little mouse Pokemon. Catch. Alright, I'm wondering if there's some others up top. You know, because they keep getting taken somewhere, or down below, or wherever they're at. Aha. There they are. Is that one just a red bird? That's a red bird duck. Hi! Welcome, welcome, welcome to the stream. Joffrey. The music, though, feels like I should be doing yoga with my dog. Yeah. Oh, it's supposed to be relaxed. Have you noticed the door with the key code? No, I haven't. Is it which map is it on? Ducky? No, but those three dots look like two eyes and a nose over there. The holes in the wall. Looks like that. Did somebody just have a baby? Somebody just had a baby. Oh, the robot has a baby. Can I click on the baby? No! I murdered the baby? I don't know what just happened. I clicked on the baby robot and it splashed away. I don't know. The door is by the radio. Okay. Killed the baby robot. No! No! I had no idea I had that kind of thing in me. Like, that freaked me out. Okay, so we gotta check by the radio. There's a door. And there's supposed to be a code. Okay. Okay, so can I click on the door? Oh, you can click on the door! So I gotta find the code. That's so cool! So is the code hidden on the map too? So I did not know there was things I could find. I murdered the baby. Shame. Oh no. That's what I'm wondering, because I gotta get closer to the radio. Let's see, AC battery. Nope. Nope. No clue there. That's as far as you got right now. Something to do with this, with special ducks? That's so cool. It didn't work. Oh, I think it's because you did like an extra symbol or something. I don't think you have to put the colon after the ad. I think it's just quote ad. He's singing. Yeah, he's doing something. He spits out water every now and then and kind of swishes around the pond, you know, swims around. I know, I didn't know. But see, like, the chair lights up, but the chair you can sit in. So I guess technically we're sitting in the chair. Is there anything else that lights up on the map? Oh! Oh. Is that a baby robot? I'm not sure, buddy. I'm scared to click on ducks now. I'm scared to click on them. Okay. There's the little baby guy. I'm scared to click on him though. What does this guy have on his shirt? Is he just a gamer? Oh yeah, he's a gamer duck. That's so cool. There's a gamer duck. I heard an explosion. Did that little baby duck just explode? I think it did. Those are bomb ducks, I think, that come in and then they just explode. Maybe that's why this guy's on fire. So maybe I didn't murder him. Maybe he just exploded. You have to do something like give the special ducks names and turn the radio to something special. Then it gives you the code, but it just confused me. Okay. So like a very special duck gets a special name and turn it, and then it does a code. Interesting. I might have to look into it later. So then you can come over here and different viewpoints. The chairs are like viewpoints. You can like just zoom out and kind of see what happens. There should be a new duck any second. But yeah, we've definitely been naming them, like different ones as we get them. We need to name one Shocky. I don't think we have a Shocky yet. I thought we had one with like lightning on it. I think it's pink though. Yeah. Oh, that one's a lemon. Lemon has the lightning one. Trying to think which one could be an electric one. See, the plaid one isn't normally on fire. I guarantee that baby duck exploded, or one of them, and caught it on fire. Because it's not on fire normally. Crowley with the knives. Which duck do you want to be, Shocky? Crowley, which duck do you want to be? Have you gotten the sub duck? Yes, the submarine. Yeah, it's so cute. Is that the one you want to be? The sub? The one that looks like a pigeon? Okay, got it. Big duck. Big head duck? What? For now? What's the big head duck? This one, Jeff's girlfriend? Oh, that one. It does have a big head. Oh, geez. It really does. If you do not have a duck named after you yet and you're in chat, let me know if you want a duck named after you. I don't have a turducken yet, so I can't name turtle after a duck yet. We need a turtle duck. There's the alien one. I don't know if the timer keeps going when you step away or not. But yeah, the submarine is so cool. Where'd you go? Can I be the Afro duck and name it? Oh. Okay, let me look. Somebody might already be that one. Yeah, somebody already claimed that one. Firestorm claimed that one. The disco duck. Right? It just like goes, it doesn't matter. It's like on the bottom of the bowl, scooching around. Let's see. I should have just got a new duck. Where did it go? Is it the green one? I don't think so. Maybe? Oh no, there it is. It's the polka dot one. I think we already had that one. But it's spawned in. Of course, the one with the horns is Momo. Yes. Momo picked that one for now. You can change your duck later too if you see a better one that you like. You don't have to stay with the same duck. You just can't take somebody else's duck. She needs a duck. Okay. Which one? Which one? Oh, gun show, oh boy. I didn't do any push-ups today. Just for you, Lady Rain. Want to touch my muscle? Just for you, Lady Rain. Just for you. How about the zebra duck? Don't think anyone chose that one. You have a purple one? Let me look. You did it for Michigan? Nice. Or teal? Let me look. Honestly, this one right here is really pretty. It's actually white and teal. It looks pink right this minute. Or turquoise, the little turquoise teal stars. That one's really pretty. But I'll keep looking to see if there's a purple one. Let's look. And then Jaffron wants a zebra one if I have one. I don't think I have a zebra one yet. Look for purple though. Or a zebra. Dun, 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 dun. But yeah, that's the one I was showing you with the stars. The teal looking stars on it. You can be dog. There's a donut one with sprinkles. Sprinkle donut. No zebra yet. Oh yeah, there is a zebra. There you go. There you go. Let's see. She would have liked the mono duck, of course. The one I would pick. Let me look. Which one did I even pick? I don't even remember. Oh, here's a teal one. It looks green though. I think it's actually green. Oh, you mean the Momo one, the horns for Momo. Yeah, that's Momo. This one's koi fish. This one's really pretty. And there's one with a cute little cherry blossom shirt on. Wooloo! But yeah, the closest thing I have to teal or purple that's not taken. There's the little sad rain duck. White and teal, you guys. She can be sad duck. If she wants to be sad duck. But yeah, this one's really pretty. It really is. Black one with purple on the wings. Let me look. Oh, yeah, that is the mouse. It's your mouse. It's like a RGB light up mouse duck. That one's actually in the water too. You can look at it real quick. But yeah, that's the pretty blueberry one. It's not pink, it's just the light right now. The time of day. Alright. And there's this one. It's a mouse. See? It's got the little scrolly wheel and everything. Ugh. What are they doing? Sparkler's going. Wiggles has got his teapot's like hot and boiling over. See, it's even got, maybe it's coffee? I don't know. You can see stuff down in it. But I think it's ready. I think it's ready. And the gamer duck's kind of cool. He lights up, his ears light up. And everybody likes the sub because it goes underwater and does all kinds of stuff. The yellow submarine. Yep. If I can Get loose. Thank you for the follow. Hotshot Game Shop. Welcome back, man. Welcome back. How are you? It is... Where did it go? There it is. Blueberry! I think it's pretty. It is pretty. I'm good, glad you remember me. I do! I remember that name, and I think you told me just to call you Hotshot. Because Hotshot Game Shop, if I'm saying it fast over and over, I would mess up, and I just did. Welcome back, welcome back. Oh my gosh, what is this? Is this a jousting duck? Look at that! A jousting duck. So is he the horse or the person on the horse? I don't know, but he's there. We're naming ducks today, Hotshot. We're just chilling, naming ducks. That's a cool one though. I like it. Oh, there's one of the little random baby ducks floating around. Oh, there's the other two. They're gonna go down that thing in a minute. Imagine a duck riding a horse. That's cool. Isn't it cool, Jane? It is really cool, duck. It's definitely one of the special ones. If there is one with flames on it, name it after me. Well, there was one with flames earlier, but I think that's because somebody caught it on fire, but it doesn't always have flames. It's the red plaid one right now, and that's because another duck caught it on fire. Otherwise, it's just like the lumberjack plaid. But it is on fire. If you want to be that one, Hotshot, for now, you could be that one until... It is on fire at the moment. Oh, this is the culprit. This little thing right there that comes over here. See? It just exploded. I'm fine by the plaid one. Alright, we'll be that one until you find a different one you like. Because you can change it. Let's see. He's not usually on fire, but now that I have an exploding duck, he just stays on fire. Until you see another one you like. There's this bright red one that's just straight up red. And then there is a lava duck. There is a lava duck. He's just not out there yet. He hasn't spawned into this map. I have him. He's just not on this map yet. Let's see. And he's actually really cool when he does, but you can wait until he does. If I don't change maps before then. We're all in the kiddie pool down here. While the other ducks are in the adult pool. Let's see. We can tab through them. Donut duck. Blueberry and Jaffafa. Cracked egg duck. Jaffafa's girlfriend with the big eyes. Gamer duck. Polka dot duck. Jousting duck. And there's Jaffafa. You have to have the different maps. They're actually individual DLCs. I'll show you. Oh my gosh. He's gonna go cause trouble. Look. Can I hit him? No. You can't like zoom in on that little baby, but he's gonna like... He's just a ticking... He's like a mine. Like a floating land, or what are the mines in the water called? I don't know. Yeah. Now, as soon as this duck spawns, I'll show you some of the other maps. But we got another duck spawning in just a minute. Because if you look above my head in the corner, way up high on the screen, you'll see this little duck bar that fills up, and once it fills up, a new duck spawns in. A new one, or one you've had before. Just depends, it's random. But they don't spawn in here, they spawn in up in the big pool. So let's hang out at the big pool. And where's the chair that I want to be in? I want to be in the chair. And then you can just like see both pools and everything. Oop, that dropped my cup. I don't know why I'm having a hard time holding this cup. But I want some more, I want some more gummies. I don't need them. The only healthy snack I have is like... Ooh, I do have yogurt. I have yogurt and I have carrots. I gotta figure out more healthy snacks that I can have on stream that don't like crunch and make super loud noises. So that I can get away from eating junk food. I need healthy snacks on stream. Carrots are just so loud. I'm sure they're like crunch, 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 crunch. Yogurt is best. Yeah, it's really good for you. Oh, we had a duck spawn in. Where did it spawn and who was it? I mean, that one? That one was already in here. Oh, did you hear that when you clicked it? Cool. Yeah, some of them make different sounds. This one actually makes clicking sounds like a mouse. Listen. Can you hear that over the music? I don't know how loud the music is. Hold on. Turn the music down a little bit. Maybe you can hear it. If you can hear it over my actual mouse clicking. I don't know. He's a kiss duck? Yes, he is. No, that one just makes quack. Oh, look! I didn't even see that one spawn in. It says Discord, look! Pecording? What? Pecoringo? I can't even read it. But yeah. I'm trying to read all this. I can read all the things on the duck. Hello, home. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a crossword duck. Oh, look, it's got GG. GG. Discord. I don't know what all the words are. It's PDS. I don't know. Okay. Anybody else make any noises besides quack? That one just makes open and close teapot sounds. That one's a quack. Ah! Get off the wall! Gamer duck. Oh no, Hotshot's not on fire anymore. Must have went under the thing. What is that noise? What happened? Who did what? What duck did what? I don't even know. Some duck was making noise. I'm trolling. Hot checking. If you're from Michigan, you'll know. Oh. The paladin poke the flamingo? There's no flamingo. Oh. Oh! Oh! You're right. The flamingo's flat. It's deflated. Oh my gosh. How did I miss that? It deflated the flamingo. That's what we heard. I have not seen that before. Interesting. Why is it gonna be so dark? It's gonna be daytime soon, yeah, because there's gonna be a new duck spawning in any second. Oh, Hotshot's on fire again. I swear somebody's setting him on fire though. Alright, let's see what we got. Oh, it's that one. The seagull. Seagull duck. Okay, let's load a new map. And this is Infinite Pool, yes. Let's see. Main menu. And resume. We're gonna go to the ice one just because it has more ducks that we've unlocked. And I think they'll spawn in faster, so you can see other ones. Jeez. Trying to change my view. There. Oh! I didn't realize that was there. That's cool. Oh, he's gonna fall back out of the thing. Is he always up there? I didn't realize that. That duck always starts in the tree and has to fall out, maybe. And get thawed out. Ew, Tex. Is that Tex making a mess in the water? No, Tex is the 8-ball, but that one duck is just making a mess in the water. That's gross. Ew. Mono's FBI agent. I don't even remember us writing that. And then I'm Cat Deer. It makes rainbow. I'm not rainbow, but bell sounds. I tried to say rainbow. Rainbows don't make sounds. And that one, if you know, you know. Thank you for the lurk, Shane. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Rain is a cute little plant pot. There's Lemon, Prince, Shane. Oh, there's the little propeller duck. He's so cute. He'll fly in a minute. There you go. Let's take it off. His attempt at flying anyway. Oh. You know, that curtain is open sometimes. I've seen the stuff on the wall. I wonder what causes the curtain to open. Because I've seen it open. Anyway. Weird. Let's see. What else can I click on? And there we go. We found a view. Alright, I'm gonna leave you guys right here and I'm gonna grab me some more snacks. Back. Got me some strawberry yogurt. Strawberry. It's so good. It's snowing. Tell me I'm live. Checking my notifications real quick. Yes, I am live. Okay, so should we go check out the ice ring? I think we should. We should go down to the ice ring. There's a wooden duck. Watermelon duck. Jeff duck. All waiting to be scooched around when it's time to clean up the ice. So yeah, Shocky, if you haven't seen this yet, it's pretty cool. There's also a ski lift that just went off. But then again, it could be spoilers for when you do get these maps. Yogurt is so good. And it's good for you. But yeah, if you guys got any ideas on healthy snacks, I'm gonna seriously try to start eating better soon. And trying to get in better shape again so I can show you guys my muscles. We'll see how this goes. But healthy snacks are good all around either way. I'm definitely open to some recommendations though. You know, natural stuff. Like, what do you guys like to snack on? Fruits, veggies, that kind of thing. Maybe I need to make some like my own homemade snacks, like you know, like where they do like apples and different things and they freeze it, drizzle it in dark chocolate. Oh, there it goes. FBI duck. Get scooched away. Michigan came out of the hut thingy. Is that a side duck turtle? That's cute. Chocolate covered strawberries. To be honest, I cut up a couple of strawberries and drizzled the chocolate over them. Oh, that sounds so good. Sounds so good. What is going on in there? How did you like end up upside down with your head through the thing, buddy? I haven't seen that before. His head's like embedded in the lift. Oh, there's a plane. I was like, what the heck? The dog needs help. Alien ladybug. I also make Italian soda with sparkling ice and a little bit of heavy whipping cream. Keeps me full until supper. Ooh, sparkling soda with a little bit of whipping cream. Oh, that sounds good. I haven't ever tried adding whipping cream to my sparkling water. That's a good idea. Makes it extra fancy. You only eat once a day, so you never snack? I mean, that's probably best. It's just really hard for me to do. I mean, do what works for you, you know? Some people only need to eat once a day. Sparkling ice water. Sounds good though. We should go check up top though, but I kind of want to see this thing run. We always miss it. See if I can click on somebody up here. I did. Oh, wait. Is that a new one? What is this? Oh, it's a little bank. That's a little duck piggy bank. It's odd. It's odd and it's cute at the same time. It's got like pig ears and a duck beak. That's a ducky bank. But yeah. Oh, you can hear it make noise too. It sounds like money. Also, presentation helps me. Like, if it's prettier, I somehow trick my mind into being full longer. Like PB&J and butter and honey, cut into shape. Into a shape I want. Huh. Sometimes squares, sometimes triangles, and put them in a cute way on the plate. That makes sense. So like take your time and enjoy the preparation. Enjoy the the task of creating the artwork. It's okay. But it sounds like you take your time in prepping your food so that it is like so much more amazing, and then it satisfies you more because it's visually satisfying in addition to helping fill you up. Yep. Piggy bank. It rattles. Let's see. Is this a minute? Because I'm gonna check. Simi! I'm here, just lurking. Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, I hear something creaking up. Oh, no, it left. It left. It left without us. No! We wanted to watch it. There it goes. It's gonna drop them right here. Can't really see it, but it drops them out of that basket back into the pool. So they come back from the bottom pool on the ice to here. And Doggo is back up right now. Why is the game so much louder all of a sudden? Weird. Maybe it's the game's music. Yeah, it's the map's music. I forgot I had this copy. You can hear all the crazy weather sounds. Peacock's cute. Hey! Artist cat and turtle caught the whooper. If there's a duck you want to see up close, let me know. I try to eventually get around to looking at all of them, but ducks in snow. Can you name the country that is home to Arlanda International Airport? I have no clue. Mr. Bot. Frosty Tools. I have no clue. I would have to Google it. Hear the fire crackling. We can just sit here by the fire now. You missed a stretch, did I? Oh, I'll have to look at that. Sweden. Did not know. Oh, stretch break. Thank you so much for the stretch break. Thank you, Michigan. I should, raise my desk. Do that. Said stretch. Dance party? I need my dance party button in here. My St. Jude dance party button. So we can just watch the fire. Forget the ducks. Party. Watch the snow. Fall outside. Watch some random ducks float around in the pond. But yeah. Dance party. You guys dancing over there? Jamming and dancing? Probably. Let's see. It's like it's a squeaky toy. It's a squeaky toy duck. No pants party. I'm gonna lose on that. I got pants on. Sorry. It's chilly today. I need my pants. Watch them flow by. Stretch party. Finish my tea. Yay, cold weather. It's supposed to be 25 tomorrow. No, and I'm complaining about the 60s. I mean, I was okay with like the 60s for most of the winter because it was so cold otherwise. But now I've finally gotten used to like 80 again. I finally gotten used to the 80s again. Now it's gonna be cold again. Oh, light up yours. Sure thing. I got you. There. Is table at 50 all month? Is it on? Hold on. There we go. Oh. Duck invasion. Get 20 rubber ducks in one pool. I just got an achievement. Duck's on ice. Look. This poor duck has been out here so long he froze to death. He's now a skeleton. Just kidding. Oh no, it's the clown. Oh. My least favorite duck. Stop complaining. I know, right? It's actually beautiful when it's like 60 and 70. I just have to get used to it again. I think the part that won't be beautiful is it's gonna be raining. Kind of gross. Ah! Look at me, I'm funny looking. No. I haven't seen the peacock open up its tail feathers yet. It'll like randomly open them all up. Quack? Some ducks quack, some don't. Most of them quack, actually. Oh, there it goes. See? It opens up its tail feathers. It's so cool. It's like a metal bird, though. Its tail feathers are metal. Oh, there you go. Ah! Zoom! Quit! He's like too close to the wall. It's pretty, isn't it? I like it. Mr. A-Ball. See? Hey. Nah, try again soon. Take it. I was hoping it would tell me the sun was gonna come out tomorrow. Yeah, your zebra duck is here. See? Now when I make you go crazy looking at it, you're like, ooh, look into my spirals. Not his butthole though. Right. I mean, what a design there, right? I know nothing. I didn't do it. I swear. Yeah, you sure can change the duck later. If you find one you like better, you totally can change your duck name. I did say it first. Yeah, as long as it's not taken, you can change. First dibs. All the lights just went out. Well, that's sad. Oh, these poor ducks. There's Michigan. See? Michigan duck. He's a lumberjack. Lumberjack duck. Watch him come down the slide over there. Oh, did y'all see this before? Look under the ice. Look under the ice. What do you see down there? There's a ginormous, woolly mammoth duck under the ice. Let's see if I can get a better look at it. Let's see. It's kind of hard to... Certain times of day you can see it better than others. But it's under there. Like if the submarine goes under there, you definitely... Well, the submarine wouldn't go under the ice, now that I think about it. He may not even be allowed on this map. Jeez. Yeah, I can't really get a better look at it. Frozen ducks. A peacock. Well, I have no duck. You can have a duck, Parker. You just gotta pick one, and I'll put your name on it. Oh, hook catch, guys. Alright, these guys want to go for a ride. Let's see. All those ducks waiting to go. Oh, maybe it only limits so many ducks at a time. There's 3 ducks going for a ride. I want peacock. Yeah, the peacock says Dreams the peacock. Dreams the peacock. So until he gives it up and finds something else he wants. So somebody new should have spawned in a minute ago. I'm just not sure where they're at and who they were. Is that them, technically? Over there? Come on. Why won't it only click on that duck? There. Trying to get way over here. No, because that's just seagull. And then there's the penguin. I don't know. If a new duck's appeared, he snuck in pretty good. Because that's the dog, right? Yeah, that's the dog. It must be one I already had. Your internet's being dumb. No! But you did catch the Pokemon. You caught 3 in a row. Uh-huh. Internet hacks. Now we know what's really going on here. Oh, I see which one spawned in, I bet. Is that one under the water? Yeah. I think there's one in the water. Down there. It won't let me click on it, though, for whatever reason. Try to click on the one underwater. No, it won't let me. Yeah, there's a rock duck down there. That's probably what spawned in a minute ago. Did you see my request or did it cut out? I don't think I did. It didn't come through. Oh, I did see that. Yeah, no, peacock duck's already taken. It already has an owner. It's Dreams. If he gives it up, you can have it. Yeah, it's got Dreams on it. the duck. He set the clown duck off the cliff. Perfect. The clown duck just flew off the cliff. Just fight him, right? He didn't understand the term, we were picking on poor dreams that day. About the... Oh, I'll tell you later. I'll tell you later. I don't want to be mean. We weren't really being mean, but we were picking on him for picking the peacock. Off to bed, didn't sleep 24 hours. Plus, oh no! Parker, did you pick a duck though? Did you want to pick a duck before you go to sleep? You don't have to. Yeah, of course. You can pick it up. If it's not already taken, I can pull up the collection too if you prefer to look at it this way. Get you a yellow one? Which yellow one you want? You want the yellow sub, the yellow beanie? With the little propeller hat? There's quite a few yellow ones. Just has to be one that's not taken already. Or the green head one? The mallard? Okay. Let's go look at the mallard. The mallard is a squeaky toy. He squeaks. There you go. There you go. You got the mallard now. It's named Parker. So, see? If it lets me click on it. There we go. There you go. Now you can go to sleep and dream about your cute little duck. You knew it. Yes, sweet dreams, sleep well. He's gonna float right down the slide. Watch him. He's gonna go right down the slide. Looks like a marbles track. We need ducks on marbles tracks, right? It's a bunch of ducks on the ice. And then let me sit. There we go. Because there should be a new duck spawning in a second. So we're gonna sit right here. And watch it fall from the sky. What it is. I think there's a better view outside though, right? Does it spawn outside? I don't know. I don't remember if it spawns out here or inside. It might be inside. Nope, it's outside. There it is. The camo duck! We've added a camouflage duck to our collection. There we go. New duck unlocked. Let's see. Jaffa and Parker. We're going for a ride. See, the curtains open now, and you can see the artwork now. I knew it opened. I wonder if it ever opens all the way. Maybe it's just like as time passes, the curtain opens. See? There's a code! There's a code. I see a code. It's not a 4-digit code, though, so that might not be a code after all. There are numbers there, though. I think it has to just be a 4-digit number, though. So that's not gonna work. And they wouldn't do it across maps, I wouldn't think. Oh my god, I just read the artwork. Can you guys see this? The back of this duck in pink? What it says across his back? You did? Yeah, there's numbers on this poster. I'm thinking this curtain will open up a little bit more later. We might be able to see more. I mean, okay, it says duck you. That's what it says on the back of that pink duck you. So is that what we name the duck? Do we name like a specific duck you and enter a code? What's on the duck clock above the pink duck? Oh, I can't see that. I can't zoom in anymore either. It's just as close as I can get. Seems legit. Let's see. We're gonna write down those numbers I see there just for the heck of it. Oh, it does open more. The curtain's opening more. I swear it opens some. Yeah, above the pink duck, I can't read above the pink. I can't see the time on the clock above the pink duck. If I had to guess, it's like 2:05 or something, but I can't really tell which hand is which to even see the clock hands clearly. Yeah. And I can take a screenshot for later. And of different things and try to blow them up. Yeah, because the numbers are slowly revealing themselves on this one. I'll just take a picture of each one. I'm kind of like waiting for this curtain to finish opening up. It's slowly moving, just like barely moving. You can see a little bit more of a number, and then a little bit more. Like I'm starting to see the beginning of another number. And I guess I'm gonna see the dog's face eventually. looks like a 9 and a 7. That would be a really long code. It's not gonna fit. But I'm still gonna write it down. I want to make sure we see the end of it though. That probably is the end of it. Catch. I don't have to imagine a duck riding a horse anymore because there it is. This is true. This is true. You now can see a duck riding a horse. Okay, that's officially all of that little poster right there. Where's my... I don't even think I had Discord open. Oops. I was surprised it did an announcement. Taking screenshots real quick so that I can grab them later. There. Okay. Back out of this screen. How do I stick over here? There we go. So who spawned in earlier? Not that one. Anybody new? Does not look like anybody new right here. Aw, Michigan made it upstairs. Oh, the ice cube duck fell. Finally. I don't think he ever thaws out, though. Maybe if you, like, play long enough, he thaws out. Because it's, like, a time thing. After a while, he fell out of the tree. Like, how long does it take for him to, like, get free to the ice cube? Yes, I can make it upstairs out, yeah. I don't see anybody new. Yo. They just fell right in. There you go. Who's gonna get pushed into the cart? Goal! I think he was trying to make a goal. He's not worried about you getting on the ride. He's just making a goal and squishing people around, knocking some people off the cliff. Oh! He's gonna... Oh, I thought for a second he was gonna push that one into the house. Into the shed. Had to force event rigged. Bye, duckies. Logs. Hey, there's a piece of paper right there. If you sit in that chair, can you see the book? Kinda. Can't read it though. You can't read it and you can't zoom in. Dang. I was wondering if it had like numbers on it. Or if it's just like a fancy swirly symbol above it. Let's see. I took a screenshot. I'm gonna zoom in. I can't really tell. It was worth a try though. Now you can see the whole thing. Indeed, a duck. Oh, now it lets me zoom in. Hold up. Does that help you? It let me zoom in now. See what I was talking about? Somebody rode on that duck's back. I can't tell what all's in there. All kinds of stuff though. It's like a job for the FBI duck. Alright, who jumped in? Was it just Tex? It may have just been... Oh no, it was the koi duck. Koi fish one. It's very pretty. Koi fish ducky. Alright. I think I'm ready to check out another map. Continue our sleuthing here. This was the ice one, so we're gonna save it here. And then we're gonna go to menu. Check out. This one, the alien one. All of them pouring in. So many ducks. This really is a long tunnel. They're shocky. There's a cactus one. That's sharp. Oh, not much, Nick Dothy. How about you? Welcome, welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you're doing awesome. Hey guys, can I get a shout out for Nick Dothy? Pray please. Just watch this strange pond. There, we're gonna sit right here. Because when they spawn, they come out of that thing's mouth, the arm goes down, and they come out right there. Thank you so much, Rain. Thank you. Lovely artist. Am I missing anybody else? This goth girl is graduating soon, so let's celebrate with her. Perrito. I'm just reading what it says. It's cute. You can't SO me. Not allowed. Now I can't put my lid on my water because it's like stuck. And that's like dangerous because I'll like get it all over my keyboard or something. Wild Pokemon appeared. I didn't do that. Camera did that. Moved on its own. Poketch. Ah! Oh, the boy is wrong. I've graduated already. I know, right? Oh, it's just the clown. Oh, we waited all out for the clown to come in. Apparently I don't own any more balls like that. I need to make another button. I need another button. That or convert my Poketch to Ultra Balls for a while. I don't really want to do that though. Let's see. Chat message. Does Ultra Ball have to be 2 words in this one? It does, doesn't it? Okay. There we go. It already escaped. Yeah, I know. And I wasted an Ultra Ball, but I was setting it up. It's all good. It's all good. So we should explore this map a little. What can I click on? Anything? These guys floating around in here. What is that? Like X marks the spot, land here, UFO thing? Oh, the shark makes... Digi. Oh. I don't know what happened. Apparently we can click on this. Oh, we could be... You could type a user... Can I actually type in there? No. I tried typing on my keyboard to see if I could redeem posture check. I mean, I'm standing up, so... Hopefully my posture's a little better than when I'm sitting, but yeah. I'm not ready to sit, though. No, jeez. I don't want to be that close. Boots and cats. Oh. Dance party. Right there sounds good. ducks. Ducks. Sometimes they end up on the spaceship. Let's see if any of them are in the spaceship. Well, let's tap around so it takes us there. Yeah. Yep. Jaffron's in the spaceship. And the sub. They're both in there. Alright. This is about the biggest zoom out view you can get. So I can click on that a little bit, but I can't go to it, huh? I'm not sure why it lets you click on some things, but then you can't actually go down there to them. So this was a chair we actually sat in. This is like one of the views. I think this is like, it's not really the spawn view though. This one doesn't have a good place to watch spawns from. Pizza duck! That's a new one. We got pizza duck. Now I want pizza. Now I want pizza. Anybody else want pizza? You're down. Pizza would be amazing. Moss duck. Blue. Feeling blue duck. Feeling blue. Turtle pizza? Oh, I wonder if it is a turtle pizza duck, because it's green. We should name that one Turtle. Turtle, you want to be a pizza duck? It could be a turtle. A mutant ninja turtle pizza duck. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Michelangelo. Nice. These guys are just suspended in the bubble, waiting their turn to go into the spaceship. It does launch too, I believe. I just don't know how full it has to be before it can. There's 4 ducks in there now. And I'm not sure why that thing lights up there like it's a viewpoint, but you can't actually view anything. Maybe not until there's actually ducks in that room to view. I want to watch the spaceship take off. It's not even like held up by anything. It's just like floating there. guess that's the captain on the screen in there. It's the alien duck. That's the alien duck on the screen in there. Yeah, that's the alien duck. And he's jamming. Hmm. Well then, Orbit, our friend is heading home. Who's heading home? Rubberducks. I didn't know anybody left. Hmm. You can watch some over down here. A lot of ducks in there. There it is. Oh no! What is it? Oh! It's the astronaut! G Toto? G Toto? Does that mean anything to anybody? G Toto? That's his name. Astronaut, I asked to be named Karas. I don't think I've ever been in this room. Wait, we want to go back in that room. I've never been in that room. How'd we get there? Yeah, that one. No. Yeah, this one. What is the glowy spot on the ground over there? What is that? I haven't been in this room before. I don't know what that glowy spot is. That's where you save the game at. Yeah, that's where the save point. Oh, I must have missed the space shuttle taking off. Yep, there it is. There it is. Flying around. That's so cool. Where does it drop them at, though? I think it takes them all the way to the top and drops them down into that little, what do you call it? Like a ping pong table board? Yeah, okay, it's gonna dock there and let them out. And they get to go play ping pong. Oh, that's so cool. No, get back. Wanted to see it. Too many ducks. There, now you can get in the seat. Once you have ducks up here doing the ping pong thing, you can come up here and watch. But only when they're up here. Catch. I think they go faster and faster, it looks like. And they go until they fall into one of the holes. If the hole is open. They look like they're all closed right this minute, though. Oh, there it goes. That one went down. Oh, there's a new one teleported in.
Affect their vibrations for the better, of course. Another place in the universe, up under different stars. That would be where the altered destiny would come in. Equation-wise, the first thing to do is to consider time as officially ended.
Interesting.
On the other side of time, we'll bring them here through either isotope teleportation.
Oh. Oh. Well, geez, it shot that duck out. And then he fell back in. So how did they actually leave this part of the ring? Maybe they don't. They just get shot back up into the air again. They fall into the holes and get shot back up into the air. Maybe they have to land into that giant funnel to actually fall back down. We should have a new duck, though. Let's find the new duck. New duck, where are you? There's Pete's duck. Oh, it might have just been that one spawning in. Might have just been the Christmas one. Because I don't see any brand new ones. Oh wait, what's that one? Oh! There's a disco ball duck! He's so cool! Good morning, Silent! Welcome! I do! I love the disco ball. Oh! I love it, love it, love it. That might be my new fave. He just floats. He's a duck. Oh, jeez. There's 3 ducks in there now. Oh, it's actually underwater with just its fin sticking out from it. Waves at the eaten as a duck, the watermelon duck. Oh yeah, what do you think about that? I should name that one. He hasn't been to stream in a while, so. Yeah. There's 4 ducks in there now. I really like that one. I already have a duck though. I'm tempted to change it though. Oh, nice. There we go. Maybe. Let's see. And da, 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 da. Okay, shrink that. Who's going to be the cloud? No, Jeff Papa already has a duck. Somehow he has 2. I'm not sure. Unless that's a different Jeff. For some reason, I think I have 3 Jeffs all of a sudden. I don't know. We'll see if zooming in on the Eden duck like makes Eden show up, right? No. I'm not a fan of the clown duck at all. He shoots water at you out of his yellow flower and he makes that noise. gosh. I guess we made it through all of them then. Yeah, we tapped through all of them. Drink water? Got you. Thank you. There you go. Oh, a new duck spawned somewhere. Where's the spawn point? Let me look again. It's like over there somewhere. No. Somewhere near where that duck just came out that I can't see. I don't see a new one. Maybe it was just the FBI duck that joined us. Let's see. Where'd the submarine go? There's the submarine. I can't click on it once it's underwater. I feel like you could before. There. Dash! Nico, Nico, Nee! Hi, Dash! Isn't hunting for the Titanic? Yeah. There he goes. Come on, we want to stay underwater. I want to keep this view. What is up with the ducks that sink? They're like rocks. They're like rock ducks. There's like ones made of stone. And you find them on the bottom of the pool, just there. They don't do anything. They're like carved out of stone. Alright, one more duck and then that might be it for tonight. Although there is one more map. I could at least show y'all the other map. The ones that haven't seen it. Man, that duck's fast. He may be upside down right now, but he is swimming fast. Duck poop. Oh, have you seen the one that makes the mess in the water yet? I'm not even sure which duck does it. It might be the moss duck. But the water all around it turns yellow and gross. Rock lobster? No, they're like literally look like the color of just like a dark gray rock or something. Yeah, it's gross, Shocky. They like poop in the water or something and it turns yellow all around them. Or maybe it's pee in the water. Maybe it's like kids peeing in the pool or something. I don't know. Stone crabs. I didn't do it. There we go. Over here. We want to come over here. And wait for our new ducky friend. Who was it gonna be? That one's looking down in the water. No, he's on his side, isn't he? Why is the luchador duck on its side? There it goes. Which duck is that? It's a blue duck with red wings, and what does that mean? What is that? What duck is that? Somebody has to know what that symbol means on the front, the minus sign thing. I didn't get the B-52's music. Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I need money! No! That means I have to use Ultra Balls. I used to work with, used to always say rock lobster, and I would say stone crab. Looks like a charging port? Yeah, but there's something, yeah, there's some kind of device or something that is those colors with that symbol, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's kind of like a keyhole, or maybe he's like a wind-up duck or something. I don't know. Maybe it's a keyhole, but then he would have a key on it. It would be on the back with like a key or something on his back. Where's the T? The T duck? There is one. He's just not on this map right now. And I said key, K-E-Y, but yeah. Special ducks. Ducks galore. This one. This one's a tea kettle. There's a tea kettle duck and it opens up and closes. No? And the Wiggles. The Wiggles tea. Or is it coffee Wiggles? I think it's tea though. The tea kettle. Luchador is on its side again. I've never seen the luchador on its side until now. Is what it is? Question mark. I don't know, Wiggles. I don't know. Alright, I'm gonna... Let's see. I spelled that wrong. Okay. Save. Um, resume. We're gonna go to rooftop because it has the least amount of ducks. We gotta load some more ducks in here. Marbles time? No. It's almost sleepy time. Because I'm slacker. Oh, there's the lava duck. The one I kept telling Hotshot about. I don't know if Hotshot's still here, but there's the lava duck. And there's the... And there's the strawberry. Strawberry duck. That one's very sad. Water duck. And that's like one of a Chinese porcelain duck. Been put back together with gold. Sleep noob? Yeah, sleep's the best. Yeah, how's the future look? Is it sunny? I don't like fried duck. Can I trade somebody for fried duck? I'm not a fan of fried duck. It just seems wrong that a duck would have a cracked egg on top of its head. It doesn't seem right. It doesn't feel right. Oh, it's still way early for you then, Silent. It's not sunlight out yet. I wish I could click on those three up there. I do own them, so it put them up there, but... I'll like try to find other things to click on and... See, there's nothing in this room. I don't think I can click on anything. Oh, I don't think I've been this way. No, get in the elevator! I want in it. I wanted to see inside the elevator! I'm outside the elevator and I can't go in. Hi, Snappy! Oh, now I can see, but I can't see. I was trying to see if there's like numbers on the wall. I can't see. I'm on the other part of the elevator. But hi, Snappy! I'd like some tacos. Tacos! One order of tacos, please. Yeah, there's no numbers on the wall. I have, as long as I've played this, I've never been in the elevator, and I've never been in this up here. I've never been up here on this map. Is this new? Where's he going? To the gutter? And then where? He goes down the drain pipe to join back down with the rest of them, I bet. I did not know this place existed up there. Oh, there's a billboard up there. Sliding duck something. Huh. Interesting. So now that they're up there, I should be able to tab the up top. I can. This is so cool. I want to see the billboard. I can't see it though, because there's no ducks on this side of the pool. I just want to see it. Don't go down that thingy. Yeah, they have to be on the one side of the pool for you to be able to read it. I can sit in the chair and watch them come through the door. I say, join us at the park. Okay. Slowly sliding duck. The slowly sliding duck park. Okay. And the elevator just stays open. Oh no, there's a duck coming in. I could still eat some tacos. They are good any day. Street tacos are the best. It seems like a fun way to reach the pool. Yeah. Yeah, elevator, slide down the pool. And then once you take the gutter slide all the way down to the other pool. Alright, let's get close so we can watch this in action. There we go. We're going for a ride. Don't fall off the building. Oh, now we're gonna go backwards. We're gonna go backwards. Little bellhop duck. Go, ducky! Oh, it didn't take us inside the pipe. Oh, yeah, there we go. Kinda. I wanted to see down in the pipe. Oh, there's the Hawaiian shirt. Oh, it's hibiscus flowers. That's a Hawaiian shirt. Yeah. Hawaiian shirt duck. It's our pigeon. Actually makes pigeon noises. Where's mine? This seems to be the party spot. Where is Wiggles? He hasn't showed up to the party yet. He's running behind schedule, it seems. Oh, there's a new duck. What is this one? I don't know. I don't know what you'd call that, but it's cool looking. Striped duck. Back row as usual. I said no because of your action yesterday. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know the reference for that one's design either. Definitely the party spot, though. trying to click on the ducks over here. Hanging out. Inside. I still want to see if I can click on anything besides ducks, but... Is that a duck hanging out there? Doing construction stuff? I think it is. It's like a window cleaner duck or something. Hold on. I can see it again. I can't. Yeah, it's up there. There's like a window cleaner duck out there or something. See him on the window up there? He's cleaning the window or something. I don't know. There's a window cleaner duck. I don't know how to point to it. Maybe I could, right here. There we go. Right there. He's right there. He's like hanging onto the window right there. Let's see. Trying to get closer. Right there at the top of the screen. Oh, you got Corviknight? I didn't even try to catch Corviknight. I love Corviknight. Is that one duck stinky or steamy? That duck is lava. He is lava. He is a burnt duck. That or he's like grilled cheese or something. I don't know. Nah, he's just lava. He's hot. He's on fire. Now a verse from our collective tale. In the pond of chat, ducks sink and swim. Rock lobsters and stone crabs are on a whim. KimonoKat catches smoochums with glee, while T's whereabouts remain a mystery. Marvel's hype at 3 a.m. chime. Future folks sorting bins on time. Tacos crave in the digital night as Corviknight takes flight in pixelated light. Thank you, Wiggle! Thank you so much! Thank you for the gifted sub! Wiggles, the unofficial duck naming chair, strikes again with a gifted sub, making sure our pond is full of VIP ducks with 17 gifts. You're not just making it look good, you're making it legendary. Thanks for keeping the Quack Pack elite. Thank you, Wiggles. Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, they all joined. Oh, I see what happens. The T thing sinks to the bottom of the pond, and then all the ducks that were getting... You see that? It's like a little mini elevator. All the ducks that were sitting up there at the beginning are now in the water because it sunk. Let's see. There's the pickaxe duck. No, that's the window cleaner. Did he finally fall out of the window? He did! He finally fell out of the window. I knew it was the window cleaner duck. He's not up there anymore. He joined us. He fell out. Ooh, we have a tiger now. You a tiger duck. We didn't have a tiger duck before. I don't know. I don't see the zebra or the cheetah duck on this one yet. Fix this thing real quick. You tell one person you lick rubber ducks, next thing you know you have 1,000. You lick rubber ducks, or you like rubber ducks. Lick rubber ducks, okay. The cheetah ate the zebra, probably. That or the tiger. Probably the cheetah, though. Because tigers are typically in the jungle. And zebras are out in the savannah with cheetahs. But they're both MIA right now. Yep. There. I licked the bot. Sounds like an old typewriter sound. Did you hear that? Oh yeah, there's a duck at the bottom of the pond. It's the one made of bricks. See? There's a brick duck down there. You're loving the jazz. It's all part of the game. It is nice and relax and chill. It works great for this environment. I don't know, maybe it was the bellhop that made the bell sound. Maybe he makes the bell sound every now and then. That would make more sense to me. It's just hard to know who does what unless you're like looking right at them when they do it. Oh, it's time for a new duck. Who will join us? It'll probably be Wiggles. Wiggles is gonna spawn in. He's gonna arrive at the party. Nope. It's not Wiggles. It's the parrot. The parrot has arrived at the party. New bird. Wiggles leveled up. Level 6. But yeah, we totally got a new birdie. Build back, yes. I don't know where you are. Oh, this is a cool angle. Look out over the city. Is that the Twin Towers? Are we in New York? I don't know, that's what it looks like to me. Maybe it's not, but that's what it looks like. What about you guys? It's the first thing I thought of when I seen it. I can't sit in either one of those chairs. I could sit in this chair. I'm the final boss. Oh. What is all this? Is there stuff circled that I can read? Not really. There's a phone. Looking for more clues. Look at the horse. We got the office view now. Is that a duck? No. Oh, the light came on and scared me. Oh. There you go. I have a chance to get a 2012 Nissan Versa for free, but it needs a transmission. I don't know if it's worth it or not. Yeah, I don't know. I need a transmission that's gonna be like 3,000 bucks. $2012 isn't really old though. Depends on how many other issues it is and how it looks on the inside. Oh, look, numbers. It's 343. Is that the numbers we need? Maybe. Maybe. Three, 4, 3 and green button. Yeah, there's a lot of factors to think about. No, Michigan. But the way it let us zoom in on that, there has to be... Yeah. Because it didn't let us zoom in on anything else on the desk. Just the phone. Yeah. I wonder if that name is the name we have to put too. I'll have to look at that other information and check too. It won't let me zoom into the chart. It won't let me highlight it. That's as close as I can get. It's on AU, whatever AU is. Is that aluminum? AU? Which element is AU? Gold. Okay. Of course, he circled gold. AY is gold? The gold's best me. But this looks like AU to me. Unknown. An unknown Pokemon. A wild unknown. Pokecatch with an Ultra Ball, guys. Yeah, AU is gold. Okay. Atomic number 79. Okay. So, did anybody new spawn in that we want to check out? Okay, that duck just joined the party, it looks like. I don't think he was in here earlier. I don't see anybody brand new. Momo's in the pool. Hmm. 80,000 miles and clean. Just don't know much about Nissans. The Versa's pretty decent. Hmm. You could always get a quote for transmissions on that model car before you make a decision too. Reliability ratings are poor. Avoid models from 2012 to 2014. Go with a 2015 or newer, which has fewer transmission failures. Performance is weak from the 4-cylinder engines. The Versa is a safe sedan, getting 4 out of 5 stars. So it's safe, but it's known that its transmission is gonna die. I'm wondering if it can repeatedly die, though, if you buy a new transmission. A used Nissan Versa is valued at like $947 to $5,000. The average cost to replace a Nissan Versa transmission can be $3,500 to $8,000. There, I hope I answered some of the questions. I wish I knew how to change it. It'd be too heavy. I don't think it'd be worth the headache. Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't sound like it, because it sounds pretty expensive to fix up. And then if it's like a repeated failure issue based on other factors, because you might just be buying a transmission to put into it that's ultimately going to fail as well. Because they'll be like, oh, you need the transmission for that car for that year, and then it might just die too. So many duckies. Just trying to see if somebody else spawned in that I'm not familiar with. I heard somebody taking the elevator though. Playing Mass Effect? Nice. Yeah, she's been here since like the beginning. Just lurking. Doing some shoutouts here and there. Let's see. Da. Might only get another 80,000 out of it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, it might be worth the 80,000 if you had the 3,500 to put on it, but it depends. And that might just be the transmission cost itself, not the installation cost. I don't know. You might just want to wait till the next thing because, I mean, sometimes you can have running vehicles, you know, given to you that are not as pretty but last longer, that might already be running, you know? I had that happen to a friend. They had like a I think they were gonna pay $500 for a running vehicle. I'm like, really? 500 bucks? That's a good deal. I mean, it ran. It was in horrible condition, but it ran, and it was $500. Ah! Let's see. I think you were already here at the party. I don't think Wiggles is coming to the party. I think Wiggles decided not to today. I think that was the koi fish duck that just showed up. I think. Trying to fight with security stuck in the back now. You would, you would. Why am I like underwater right now? Did I somehow tab to the underwater rock duck? I did. He's just like floating there. Alright guys, I think one more duck. And then I think we're gonna do a raid. It's stuck at the bottom. Never getting finished. Oh no. All the ducks just chilling. Clean up my mess here. How does one person make so much of a mess? I don't know, but I do. I have more stuff than I know what to do with clean up here. I don't even know how this happens. Wow, you're right. Phenomenal mood. Who did it? Oh. Okay, it's Mr. Marble Duck. He just joined us. He just joined the party. No new duck! I wanted a new one. No comment? Oh no, we didn't. We were gonna go. We need to go try that. Let's save this. This is rooftop, right? Yeah. So now we gotta go back to the main menu. Yeah, and try that key real quick. On Infinity Cool, I think it is. Come on, ducks. Jump in the pool. There's Wiggles. Wiggles was at a different party. That's all. Wiggles was at a different party. There's Blueberry. Oh, and Mr. Jousting Duck is like headed straight toward the floaty over there. Wanting to pop it. Is he gonna pop it again? How did he pop it before? Maybe the floaty started to slide toward the pool or something and he poked it? And the one making that noise is actually, I think, Mr. Wiggles. Yeah. Wiggles is letting all the steam out right now. Look at him. What the hell is that? You letting your steam out? Your spiral duck. Boiling water and making popcorn. The coffee pot. I think it might be a coffee pot because it looks like coffee on the inside. See? That looks like coffee. What do y'all think? I don't know. Alright, let's see if we can find that code thing for these other ducks during the party. There. Click on this door, and it was what? What is it again? 343 green? There we go. 3, 4, 3. Green? Nope. Oh. Nope. It's not it. Were we supposed to push that on the phone? Maybe the phone you could actually dial 343 on. Now I want to know. Crossword duck, I must solve you. Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure them all out eventually. Yeah. There is a crossword duck. And he says GG and Discord and all kinds of stuff on him. In multiple languages that I don't know. What does gold AU have to do with it? I don't know. 79343. I think you can only do 4 numbers, but I'll check. So how many did it do? Yeah, only 4.
Al nord è generalmente poco nuvoloso, salvo locali aumenti della nuvolosità sull'arco alpino, dove non si escludono locali piovaschi.
Like, if we could see something on the radio that was like 4 numbers, it'd be cool. Oh, no. Duck. Can't see through you. But it's supposed to be related, I think, to the ducks. I think it was. Hold on. Not this duck, but... this duck. The one behind me. It's related to this duck. Because he was in one of the photos. And then the duck we don't have yet. I think it's more complicated than we think it is. We just haven't figured it out yet. There's the Bitcoin duck. This one. It's okay, it's okay. I mean, if I really wanted to know, I could, you know, YouTube it. I'm just, you know, playing around with the thoughts right now. Oh, the ducks. Hmm. 4, 2, 1, 3. Let's see. 4, 2, 1, 3. No, just a shot. Oh, there's the bomb. The explosive duck. It's going to blow up. Pay close attention to the little duck scooching around. There it goes. There's a ball down there. There's a ball. A golf ball. There's a golf ball in the thing. Oh, wait. What the heck? What? This isn't as... The door will open when you find the... There's math problems on here! I don't do a math problem when you find the answer. Who wants to do math? Give me math. Okay. You write it down. There it is. There's one of the math problems. Okay, and then there's another math problem down there. If I can zoom out a second, far enough to get to it, to take a screenshot of it. I took screenshots of it. Oh yeah, so you can't solve if there's no numbers. You're right. I mean, there's one number. A 1. And a 1. No. Yeah. When you find the blah 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 blah. That's still fun, though. This is fun, though. I'm not gonna lie. And then there was another new duck in here that popped in besides that one that I gotta go check out. Where's it at? I saw it a second ago. Oh yeah, this scary looking guy. He's scary. Is he part of the Halloween collection? Pufferfish duck? Could be a pufferfish. Oh, he stabbed that one. He. Oh, look at him. He's so cute. He bumps into something. He poofs up. I wonder how often he does that. He's after Wiggles. Come on, poof up. Poof up. Yeah, there he goes. He just... He's so cool. I like the pufferfish. But yeah, the door will open when... Oh, geez. Clown. I heard the clown. I don't see the clown, but I heard him. He's not even here. How am I hearing the clown when he's not even here? Yeah, I thought it was. I think it's complicated even after looking it up, yeah. For sure. I was gonna say, I have a few of you guys in my DMs trying to figure it out as well, going, Alright, bye, Silent. They make you do math? Apparently. Nah, I don't think you have to do math. I think it's just when you find the code. You just need the code, the 4 numbers or whatever. But I think it's related to other ducks. Is that the problem? See, he's part of it. He's part of the problem. I know that much. He's in one of the paintings. Is he doing like Morse code or something? 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Every now and then he does 2 though. There he goes, 2. I don't know. I guess not. He sounds like the aliens from Mars Attack. There's a cuddle puddle down here. Hot shots on fire again. He only does that when the exploding duck is around. So I can't zoom in on that table. Is that duck lotion? Duck sun. Duck sun. I was like, I don't know. I don't know, but I think that's it for me, guys. I think we're gonna do a raid and we'll work on this next time as we collect more ducks and we find more mysteries. So, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the chill Sunday. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Join me for this raid. We're gonna do a raid.
Le temperature minime di questa notte, le minime notturne, la sensibile diminuzione sul nord Italia con valori di primato del freddo, meno 14 osservati Bolzano, Aosta, meno 11, Torino, meno 10,
Oh,
Cuneo, meno
coffee's
13.
ready.
La diminuzione è stata risentita anche in alcune regioni del sud Italia, ha prevalso un aumento sulla Calabria. E adesso direi di passare immediatamente alla teleimmagine del satellite meteosat sull'Italia, eccola per mostrarvi. Il gran freddo, il gelo, ma il tutto secco potremmo dire. Qualche banco di foschia sulla pianura padana, ma il
Coffee's ready.
poi praticamente dall'altezza di Rimini e verso sud è tutta la intensa copertura nuvolosa legata al sistema rotazionario estremamente complesso che
Michael's ready to drink. Hope you have a good Monday. Thank you. You too. Alright guys, copy pasta. We want cookies or riot. We want cookies or riot. Get ready to show some love. Alright guys, y'all take care, and I'll catch y'all next time. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. If I can find my buttons. Here we go.